in this Mubarak time has gathered us in the most blessed place on the face of this earth. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gathered us here today, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gather us on the day of Qiyamah beneath His arsh and His throne, when there will be no shade except for the shade of the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and elders, the month of Ramadan came very quickly upon us. It's very quickly going away from us as well. May Allah give us barakah and blessings in the remaining days of Ramadan itself. More than a week is gone from us. A month, a time that we were anticipating and hoping for such a long time, is quickly going away from us. May Allah give us the tawfiq, the ability to have qadr for this time, and allow us to spend the rest of the time in the best of its manner, inshaAllah. Let's not lose the motivation, let's not lose the energy, let's not lose the commitment that we had in the beginning of the Ramadan. Let this continue, inshaAllah, till our last breath, inshaAllah, till we reach, and of course the rest of our lives. Today is our 8th day of fast. I wanted to share some reflection from the 8th juz of the Quran, starting from the beginning. If you look at Surah An'am, then you look at Surah A'raf, there are so many things to discuss. There was one very particular subject that I really wanted to talk about. Then I was debating if I should talk about that or this, but then I gave up on that topic that I really wanted to talk about, but I turned to something else. But I'm going to reflect upon that in just a minute. There is the surah of the Quran, in Surah Nam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this word, Ya Bani Adam, O children of Adam, Ya Bani Adam, 4 times. Nowhere in any place of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Ya Bani Adam so frequently. Amongst 4 of the 3 places where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Ya Bani Adam, it's related to our libas. It's related to our exterior. As long as we have to make our inner self, which is our batin, we also have to work on our zahir, which means our exterior, like the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ as well, which was a topic that I really wanted to talk about, but then I said, you know what, let me share with you something else. This ayat of the Quran that I recited in front of you is from the 8th juz of the Quran. It is Surah Al-An'am, which is the 6th surah in the order of recitation, and this verse is verse number 151. This ayah of the Quran and 2 other ayats next to it, 151, 152, 153. These 3 ayats of the Quran talk about 10 commandments. These 10 commandments are those commandments that not only the Sharia and the deen of Rasulullah ﷺ agree upon, but all of the previous nations and also agreed upon as well. So this is something unanimous for every single prophet, every single Sharia, every single thing that ever came on the face of this earth agreed upon these 10 points. So they can kind of say these are like the 10 commandments from the Quran. But of course, these are not the only 10 commandments. There are many things in the Quran. But these 3 ayats of the Quran, verse number 151, 152, 153, talks about 10 important factors that not only the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ agrees upon, but the nations of the past itself agreed upon as well. I'm going to quickly go over this, but my main emphasis will be only on the first ayat of the Quran because there's a lot to cover and I'm not going to hold you on for too long. So this is how it starts, and I want you to give me your full attention in the beginning because there's a reflection right in the beginning. The Quran ayat says, Qul, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, say, recite, read on to the people, inform the people. What? Ta'alaw, come, meaning gather together. I have to tell you something important. When you have something really important, tell someone, say, can you come closer? I got to tell you something. Right? So when you gather someone and try to get someone's attention, Qul, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, announce to them, what? Ta'alaw, come closer. I have to tell you something really important. And what is that something important? Atlu ma harrama rabbukum. I will tell you those things that your Rabb Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited upon you. I want to tell you some things that your Rabb has prohibited upon you. Do not get involved in these things. Stay away from these things. Do not even come close to these things. First and foremost, the ayat of the Quran says, Allah tushriku bihi shay'a. Do not ascribe any partners unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hold this thought for a second. Number 1, do not make any partners unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to skip number 2 for just 1 minute. I'm just going to skip number 2 for just 1 minute. Number 3, the ayat of the Quran is saying, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْلَاكٍ. Do not kill your children. Do not kill your daughters because of the lack of wealth and provision and sustenance. Do not take their life. So number 1, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Qul, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, announce to the people, Ta'al, come close. Something important is about to be announced. What is it? Do not make shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I skipped number 2. I'll tell you in just a minute. Number 3, do not kill your awlad. Do not take the life of your children because of imlak, because you are going to lose provision and sustenance. Number 3. Number 4, the ayat of the Quran saying, نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُ وَإِيَّهُ. I'll talk about that in just a minute. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Do not come close to immoralities. Do not come close to fawahish, indecent acts. Do not come to lewd things. Do not even come close to these things. مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Apparent or not apparent, do not come close to fawahish. Then, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. Do not kill people. Do not take the lives of individuals. So these are big things the Quran is talking about. Do not make shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I skipped number 2. Number 3, do not take the life of your children just because you are fearing provision and sustenance. Number 3, the ayat of the Quran saying, don't come close to lewd, fawahish and immoralities and wrong things. Number 4, do not take the life of individuals, which is sacred, and all these things. Now, of course, I'll go further as number 5, 6, 7 as well. But now I missed number 2. Number 2, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I go back to this ayah of the Quran, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And with your parents, make sure you treat them with ihsan. But aren't we talking about things which are prohibited? Why is the Quran saying, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا? Isn't that random, right? Think about it. Please think about it. Don't just sit here and listen to me saying this. Think about it. I want you to think about it from the beginning of the ayah of the Quran. قُلْ, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, announce. Announce what? Ta'alaw, come close. Very, very close. Something important is about to be announced. What is it? Do not make shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be nice to your parents. Do not take the life of your children. Do not, then the next ayat of the Quran is saying, do not even come close to lewd and immoralities. Do not take the life of individuals بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ, without rights and justice. Now in the middle of all these big things, don't do, Allah is saying, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And with parents, make sure you have ihsan. Make sure you have excellence. What does that mean? Isn't this ayat talking about prohibition? There's a very subtle and important point, and especially for these young guys sitting here, a very important point to take back home for you. While Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, wala, don't do all these, He's saying, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And with your parents, you must have ihsan. What does that mean? If you are not doing ihsan, you cannot even be mediocre. You cannot be even normal. You cannot even be nice. You have to show ihsan. You have to be excellent. If anything less than excellent, then you are doing something wrong. If you're just being nice, you're not doing right. If you're just being just, you're not doing nice. If you're just being mediocre, I'll bear with him. No, you're not doing right. If you're not showing ihsan to your walidain, both mother and father, the Quran is saying you are falling in the degree of those which Allah has prohibited you from. You feel that point, what I'm trying to say? Meaning, understand this ayat of the Quran. So beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah of the Quran is talking about collective prohibition, not only for this ummah from the people before us, but in the middle of all of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. When it comes to your parents, make sure you bring ihsan. And ihsan, what is ihsan? I've spoken about ihsan so many times in this masjid, but just a reminder for all of you. Ihsan itself in Arabic means the excellence, the pinnacle of everything. When you reach the pinnacle of something in Arabic, it's called ihsan. You must remember the famous hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. A man walked inside, Umar radiallahu anhu said, wearing extremely white clothing, extreme dark hair. He joined his knees with the knees of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sat very, very close and said, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I got some questions. Number 1, what is Islam? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him an answer. He said, Sadaqta, you told me the right answer. Umar radiallahu anhu said, who is this guy? Asking a question and then even affirming the answer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he asked, what is Iman? He gave an answer. He said, yes, Sadaqta, you told the right answer. And the third thing was, what is ihsan? Meaning he asked from Islam, Iman, and ihsan. Ihsan is climax. And what did Rasulullah ﷺ say in ihsan? أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. You worship Allah as you see Him. And if you cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is as though that Allah sees you at all time. Meaning, that's the excellence of humanity. Abdiyat, when you reach the climax of your life, it is as though that you can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not visibly, but feel the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being with you at all times. So ihsan means the excellence of anything. So again, come back to this ayah of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, announce to the people. Now there is an announcement which is a big announcement. Come close. Allah tushriku bihi shay'a. Do not make shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا comes to your parents, make sure that you're doing ihsan. Not just being normal. If you're just being nice, you're not doing enough. You have to show ihsan. You have to show the most excellent manners of your life. If anything less than that is happening, wallahi, we are making a wrong. May Allah protect us and preserve us. Sometimes for many of us and many of our young guys and many youth that I see sitting here, many millennials, a lot of the time there's ups and downs with our parents. Sometimes you hear things that you really don't like, and sometimes it's so hard to hold yourself back. Please do it. Please do it. It's the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will never regret a moment that you stayed silent in front of your parents. Allah's qasam, you will always regret a moment that you said something to them for the rest of their life when they will be gone. You will regret those moments. I've seen people who come to me and they tell me that the biggest thing that I regret in my life was I said something to my parents. I wish I had never sinned, they're gone away from me. I wish I would have never said that to them. But I said it, I wish I can take it back, but I can't, they're gone. They always regret over those moments. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. When it comes to parents, please show excellence. Don't be mediocre. Don't be normal. Don't be just nice. Be the best that you can. This is what the Quran is saying. Anything lesser than that, you're falling short in the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's run through these 10 things. What are these 10 things? Do not make shirk onto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With walidain, have ihsan, the best that you can do. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُم مِّنْ إِمْلَاقٍ. Do not worry about your awlad and children because of risk. Don't take their lives. Their risk is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Surah At-Tirmidhi, when a person is in the womb of the mother, the risk of this person is already destined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We worry about our awlad. We worry about getting our children married. If he or she gets married, where are they going to eat from? Wallahi, the spouse is bringing their own risk into your house. Why are you worrying about this? They are bringing their own risk. Allah is the one who provides. Their awlad and their children are providing their own risk. Risk comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ayah of the Quran is saying, do not take the life of your awlad and your children min imlaq. Just because you're feeding risk is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he mentioned so beautifully, نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ. It is Allah who gives you risk, and it is Allah who gives them risk. It is not you who provide, it is Allah who gives you risk. Maybe because of their coming, Allah will give you risk. There was a person in the hadith, there's mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were two brothers in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu was revived more or less to an effect, I don't exactly remember. But there was one person who was always engaged in ibadat and dhikr and dua and mashr and amal. And one was always engaged in worldly pursuits. So one of the brother complained and said the other brother doesn't do anything. And I'm the one who makes all the efforts and work. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying just sit there and you can get manna salwa. It's not going to happen. You have to make the effort. But what was the reply of the Prophet ﷺ? That you are giving risk because of the other brother. You are given risk because of the other individual. You don't even know because of who you are getting risk from. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the risk of every individual. وَمَا مِن دَابَةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. Anything which walks and crawls and flies and does anything in this world, risk is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They come with their own risk. We don't provide them with risk. Do not worry about anyone else. Any guest who comes to your house, brothers and sisters, never worry about their risk because they're bringing their own risk. Allah brings the risk of theirs to your house because of the risk coming to you and the guests coming to you. So the ayat of the Quran is reminding us, do not take the life of your awlad and your children because of imlaq. It is Allah who gives you risk. And number 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا number 4, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Apparent, non-apparent, things that you feel, those things that you do not. In the middle of the day, in the dead of the night, don't come close to fahish. Do not come close to immoralities, lewd and wrong actions. Wallahi, I remember a saying of the Prophet, one hadith a long time ago I read, it is mentioned that those individuals, Allahu Akbar, those individuals who involve in secret sins, those individuals who involve themselves in secret sins, meaning those who are in front of people would not sin, but when they're all alone, they would commit sins. This act of them secretly committing sin is a sign that this individual may leave this world without iman one day. Secretly committing sins can lead an individual to the loss of iman, brothers and sisters. I'm not saying do sins openly, but I'm saying that a person who feels that, it is something very dangerous. That's why the Quran itself is saying, do not come close to fawahish, immorality, lewdness and wrong, indecent acts, ma ظهر منها وما بطن, be it apparent and not apparent. Save yourself from these actions. And I was saying this yesterday in Jummah. I said the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ mentions in the month of Ramadan for the ummah of Rasulullah ﷺ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls and captivates the evil shayateen. But I was saying myself, I made this announcement on my behalf, not anyone else. I said, if in the month of Ramadan, I still cannot stop myself from committing sins, that means I cannot always point the finger towards shaitan anymore. I have to look at my own nafs. If in the month of Ramadan, I'm unable to stop doing wrong what I was doing before Ramadan, then brothers and sisters, don't point towards shaitan and say, shaitan is so zalim, is making me do this. No! It's my own nafs that has gotten so bad that it cannot even stop the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ayat of the Quran is saying, avoid fawahish, lewd actions and immorality, ma ظهر منها وما بطن, ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق. Do not take the life of individuals without justice, without haqq. ذلك وصاكم به لعلكم تعقلون. This is the wasiyat and advice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards you, so that you may have understanding and intellectual intellect. Then the ayat of the Quran continues. I'm just going to count these 10 things, not too much detail, but just briefly count towards them. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغُوا أَشَدَّ. Do not touch the mal and the wealth of yatama. The wealth that you have for someone who you are capturing or you're keeping, make sure that you fulfill the haqq of yatama. Make sure you fulfill the haqq of the orphans. For many people, wallahi, we don't face this a lot here, but across the globe there are so many places where their children and people, when they become yatim, there are so many relatives who become a part of them and take all their wealth away. And it's such a bad feeling that these yatama and these orphan kids, they live the rest of their life in poverty, not even seeing a single thing that was left behind from their parents themselves. Do not come close to the wealth and the mal of yatama, and treat with them with ihsan and the best of a favor. And then the ayat of the Quran is saying, وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانَ بِالْقِسْطِ. And when you are measuring and when you are doing your business transaction, make sure that you do them completely. Do not deceive others. Your mu'amalat, your actions, your interaction should be complete and perfect. And I say this again and again, brothers and sisters, Islam for us are not these four walls. Islam for us is our 24-hour life. You'll hear so many people say, brother, in Ramadan I don't lie. Brother, how can you lie in the masjid? Does that mean you can do it outside? No, it doesn't. It means that I cannot lie anywhere. It means that I cannot do this anytime, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us. So the ayat of the Quran is saying, وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانِ. When you are weighing and we are doing your business transaction, be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's such a beautiful hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, التاجر صدوق الأمين. A tajir, a trade, a businessman. And this is not a person who's being said a wali of Allah. The hadith is saying a tajir, a person who is a businessman. Sudukul Amin, a person who is sadiq and Amin, truthful and trustworthy. This man, hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ is saying, on the day of Qiyamah will be ma'an nabiyyin wa siddiqeen wa shuhada. This person will be raised amongst the prophets, the siddiqeen and the shuhada. Will be standing on the same line. A tajir, a businessman. He's not doing anything extra, but he's doing his business, she's doing her business according to the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not even a single penny going left and right, they're aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A tajir, a business person who is sadiq and ameen, is with the anbiya, the shuhada and the siddiqeen on the day of Qiyamah. So the next ayat of the Quran is saying, وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانِ. When you're doing your business transaction, be the best of the Muslim outside. Do not deceive anyone, brothers and sisters. Let this be a sign for so many people. Let them know that Muslims are trustworthy. I say this again and again. 40 years prior to the Nabuwah of the Prophet ﷺ, he was known as a Sadiq wal Amin. His character was built even before Salah and Kalima was given to him. Build your akhlaq in the community. Build your trust as Muslims in the community itself. Do our own people trust us or not? Our own relatives don't trust us. Our own people don't trust us, because we lost that sidq and iman within our own lives. Awful kayl. Make sure that when you are doing your tijarat and businesses, you are as clear as possible. وَلَا نُكَلِّفُ نَفْسٍ إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَعْدِلُوا وَلَوْ كَانَ ذُو الْقُرْبَى. And when you have to make a decision, make sure you make your decision with adl and justice, even though the other person on the other side is your own relative. When you have to speak of haqq, speak of truthfulness, even though your loved one is on the other side. Do not deceive. Adl and justice is something which was the shi'ar and the sign of the ummah. Wallahi. This was the sign and symbol of ummah which we have lost. Adl and justice was the life of the Muslims, shi'ar of the Muslims, signs and symbols of a believer. The ayah of the Quran is saying, وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ, and when you are to say anything, فَعْدِلُوا, make sure that you have adl inside, you have justice inside. وَلَوْ كَانَ ذَا الْقُرْبَى, even though the closest of your relatives is on the other side. No matter it's the most beloved person to you, if it's haqq, speak the haqq. Speak the truth. And this is what the deen of Rasulullah is. And that's why when you go further in these ayats of the Quran, the hadith itself, the ayat of the Quran itself mentions, قُلْ إِنَّنِي هَدَانِي رَبِّي إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. O Muhammad tell them that Allah has guided me towards the haqq religion. And that's why he says, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. My salah, my life, my death, my mal, it's all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I speak for what is haqq, I stand for what is haqq. So the ayat of the Quran, it's saying that when you have to speak, speak of justice and adl. Do not deceive anyone. Even if it's the closest of your relative, stand for what is right. The next two things, the ayat of the Quran, then I'll finish. وَبِأَهْدِ اللَّهِ أَوْفُوا, and fulfill the promises that you make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or with people. Fulfill your promises, brothers and sisters. Wallahi, I remember this story and always brings, shivers to me. It is mentioned that once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was informed that he should go and reach out to the house of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu and to ask for proposal of Aisha radiallahu anha and to get married to her, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reached the house of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was not home and his wife was home. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam approached there. He asked if Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was there. So she says, no, he's not there. At this moment, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have come here to ask you in marriage for your daughter Aisha radiallahu anha. So at this moment, this is something to take back for all of us. So the wife of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh mentioned, she says that my husband Abu Bakr radiallahu anh is not here, but the only thing I can tell you this, and she's saying this to the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she's saying the only thing that I can tell you is that my husband Abu Bakr radiallahu anh has given his word, is ahad, to someone else before you came. Before you came to our house, my husband Abu Bakr radiallahu anh has already given his words to someone else that he will marry Aisha to him. And that's why I think my husband is a man of his words. He will not break his promise. Who is she saying this to? She's saying this to the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She doesn't know it's wahi, but she knows that she has given the word and the husband has given the words. How truthful are we in our words? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu comes. He goes to the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he says, I apologize, Ya Nabi Allah, I have given my words to someone else. I cannot accept your offer. Few days passed and the person who he had committed to, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he came and he says, I don't want to take this offer anymore. I don't want to marry Aisha radiallahu anha. And then of course, they accepted the offer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they went further. The reason why I mentioned this small little incident is ahad. You make your promise, you give your words, the world change, but you're not going to move from your words. This is the sha'ar, the signs and the symbol of the believers. This is how strong their words and the commandments is. So the ayat of the Quran is saying, fulfill your promise. وَبِأَهْدِ اللَّهِ أَوْفُوا ذَلِكَ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And the last but not least, وَإِنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمٌ فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. Allah has given you a clear path towards understanding, a straight path. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا سُبُلَ. Do not follow the path فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنِ السَّبِيلِ, because of which you will be misguided and deviated. Follow a straight path for which Allah has given you, and indeed you will become successful. I remember one of my teachers saying this very early when I was studying. He says, if you ever see horses which run derbies and run big races, they always have covering on the side of their eyes. Their eyes are covered from all sides. He says, do you ever know why they are covered from the sides? He says, because if they are not covered, they can never win the race. They can never win the race because they will begin to look everywhere. Allah gave you Sirat al-Mustaqim. Follow that straight path. You don't need to look anywhere else. Allah gave you Quran. Allah gave you the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The best way and the greatest path to follow itself. And inshallah, if we keep on following these footsteps, inshallah, we'll be guided towards the right path. Let me quickly count these 10 things, inshallah, before I finish. Again, this is the 8th juz of the Quran. This is the 6th surah of the Quran, Surah Al-An'am. This is verse number 151, 152, 153. These 3 ayahs of the Quran talk about 10 commandments that not only the Sharia and the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ believes inside, but all of the previous nations and the Prophets also preach towards their Ummah and their nations. Again, please keep that point with you. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the prohibitions, He mentions Walid Any Asana. Ihsan means excellence. If we are doing anything lesser than this, then we are not doing the correct thing. Again, those 10 things the ayat of the Quran says, do not make shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Show ihsan to your parents. Walid Any Asana. Number 3, do not take the life of your awlad because of the fear of poverty. Number 4, do not come close towards immorality, lewd, and fawahish, wrong actions. Ma dhahara minha wa ma batan, apparent and non-apparent. Do not come close to fawahish, the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not take the life of people. Do not murder. Do not take the life of individuals, innocent individuals. إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ, except in the time of justice, in the time of need. And of course, that means an entire command, entire court, entire system. When someone kills someone, an entire court is there, then that's there. The next ayat of the Quran is saying, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْمَالَ الْيَتِيمِ, do not come close to the mal and the wealth of yatim. Be careful for the possession of the mal of others. A single penny for someone else's haqq in our pocket, wallahi, on the day of Qiyamah can become very, very difficult. Then the ayat of the Quran is saying, when you are doing your business transactions, make sure that you are most clear in weighing and providing when you're doing your businesses. وَلَا نُكَلِّفُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وَسْعَهَا. وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ, and whenever you are speaking, speak of adl and justice, even though you have to speak against your own loved one, but speak for what is adl and justice. Fulfill your promises with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with people, and this is the wasiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And last but not least, this is the straight path that Allah has given you, a path of hidayat and guidance, the path of Quran and Sunnah. So hold on to this path and do not turn left and right. Do not deviate. Do not look around. Follow the straight path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. And we hope from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can reach our destination, and that is Jannah and the qurb of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of Qiyamah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to practice whatever good has been said, accept our dua and supplications, allow us to live our life according to the Quran and the beautiful sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين برحمتك.